So thank you for being with us on Replica. This is our first episode. Sorry for the inconvenience that we start 2 minutes late. So here we are with Sayantani, and we're gonna talk about many things related to AI. So she's gonna give us a background in her career as a software developer and how she went to the transition from machine learning and start working with the AI projects now. I'm glad to have you here. Thank you so much for giving us some of your time to talk about how you build your career in AI and give us a background of all the things that you have been doing lately and how you made that transition from software developer to AI architect.
Yeah. So I did my engineering in electronics, and then I got into IT. I worked for around 7 years as a web developer in the Microsoft stack. So I was a Microsoft professional. And then the AI thing happened. So how it happened was, so my manager back then he's into writing books. So he was writing this book on AI, and he would get the manuscripts to office to do some corrections or whatever. And he had handed me and a few other colleagues some of the pages of the manuscript. So I was going through that. I was reading that, and it got me so intrigued that I came back home and I Googled about it. I Googled on what AI was doing, how was it happening right now. So we've all seen it in the movies and everything, but it was like happening on the ground. The people around me who were working on it. So, and that after reading about it and the potential of AI, what we could all do with it, how it would affect people's lives, that got me really engrossed. It would affect people like you and me. So it's not something in the movies, not about building robots. It's also something down to earth, like predicting diabetes or helping people see, helping people walk. So that was something very real to me. And that is when I started studying, reading about it. And my organization had an innovation lab. So I started with the idea of chatbots, which is very common now, but around 5 years back it was not so much.
Mhm.
So that was mostly my journey, how it started, and then this is where I am right now.
So, but you was working with computer vision, right? Or you're working now with computer vision?
So I am in machine learning architect, so it deals with all kinds of machine learning applications. But I have a special interest in computer vision, so I have specialized in that. So in machine learning AI as such, we have natural language processing, which deals with understanding human language, any language, English, Hindi, Spanish, German. So that is one part, and then we have computer vision, which makes a machine understand the way we understand the when we see our environments. Like it basically emulates the human vision system. So that is the computer vision part. And then we have speech recognition. So if you're speaking, a machine can emulate you. It can use your voice, and it can read, say maybe from a book, your voice. Or what we have, a simple very simple example is Alexa. So speech recognition, you talk to Alexa, it understands it, and then it translates that into an action. So these are, like, from very high level, the three fields. And you have more, you have reinforcement learnings for robots and video games. So all that comes into picture. So I have a specialization in computer vision. I have a special interest in computer vision.
So, any project that you can say that you have been applying computer vision?
Yes, lots actually. So there have been the most common ones are in the healthcare sector. Then you have computer vision ones, the ones that I'm currently working on, which helps in transferring makeup from one face to another. So that is a very, these are all very, organizational level use cases. But I've been working on drones, how autonomous drone can see its environment and not collide with it. So that also requires computer vision. I had created a payment system where the application would basically scan your face. So that would be like your one debit ATM card. debit card, credit card, whatever you call it, and you do not need to carry 5 7 cards maybe, and you scan, your face gets scanned in a point of sale device or your phone, and you can make a transaction. You can select the bank that you have linked your account to, your face to. So it's like your account face is like your user ID and your password. So the password is something else. So that was a payment system that I had devised. So there are multiple applications then computer vision is capable of.
So
So
this project that you're talking about is something that is out there now, or you're working on it and you're
this
using
is something that I had designed in my previous
design?
organization. Yes.
Okay, so it's
So,
working out there.
yes, some banks are using it.
Okay. Oh, nice. So when we talk about AI, and it's something funny because like when most people talk about AI, they think about the future and like those movies. But right now we have AI everywhere. Like we're living in AI. So we have AI in social media. We have AI in our phones, our cams. When they have the when you take a photo and you have the location, so to look for your face, in these type of things, like how you see AI evolve in the next like 5 years or 10 years, where are the places that still AI has not been implemented well?
Okay. So the potential is immense. So it is only up to the human mind to come up with to use the data that we have already, to come up with use cases that we can implement in our daily lives. So you gave an example of face detection. So the most basic examples that we didn't even know was done using AI is spam detection that we have in our mails. How our mailboxes classify some mails as spam and others as not spam. And then in Facebook we had the face detection. Depending on your friend list, the when you upload photos, your faces would get detected. So that is where the most people came across AI, but they did not know that was AI.
Yeah, that's
And now,
when you tag in a photo of someone. Yeah,
even before
right.
tagging, so if you
Yeah,
have that person in your friend list and you've uploaded some of their images before, when you upload a new photo, automatically they would be able to say, okay, this is X, is this X, confirm. So something like that. So Facebook, so that gives us an interface. And what you're talking about is where it can go. So the potential is immense. So we've been talking about flying cars, autonomous vehicles. So all these are trained on deep learning applications. So there are multiple autonomous vehicle startups happening even in India. I read about something a few days back. So they are building these vehicles based completely on AI, where they're going to train the vehicle by doing hours and hours of driving through the roads and accordingly getting the data. So that is AI, that is machine learning. You have it everywhere. You have it in your phones, you have it in your home automation, in healthcare. So name it and you have it. It depends upon
yeah.
the potential.
No, like Alexa now with the voice recognition apply AI because it's
Yes.
learning from each like answer or anything that you talk to them. Is it is in the process of learning, right?
Yes, and it learns on its own. So what you have on your phone when you're texting or typing in WhatsApp or a message, so you will understand that after a while you can see that this words, there's auto completion functionality that is there. So if you're writing, say I'm writing to you Miguel, so if I write to you your name Miguel a couple of times, next time I'm writing a sentence and
It's gonna be
it might
there.
end in a name, so it will give your name, but the phone does not know you. So that is AI. So it is learning from the data I'm writing, and that is happening parallelly. So it's training on its own. So your phone is getting learning from the data that you're giving it. So that is also AI.
So through the time of your background when you was learning all these new things about AI, what are the few resources, or if you can mention a few, or the things that you use to make that transition and learn more about AI from software development to now that you're working with AI?
Yeah, sure. So when I started around 5 years back, we did not have so much of online resources, study material, but now there are plenty. So I will walk you through my journey. So I started with Coursera. At that time, Coursera had been newly launched, and Andrew Ng, who's like everybody is a fan of him. Everybody who wants to learn or has had some interaction, read about AI. So I did one of his courses, the machine learning course in Coursera. That was based on MATLAB. So
Okay.
initially it is a little overwhelming because it deals a lot with statistics, gradient descent. I would not understand gradient descent, though I loved maths in high school. But especially because you've not been in touch, you're doing web development, doing coding, but that is not something which you encounter every day. So all the maths aspect of AI.
So when you was in that part, you're saying that that was not your area, that it was strong enough. What do you did? Like, what do you think? Like, okay, I can start by this part, and then I can come stronger in the area that you were talking now.
Yeah, so what I did was I spent weekends studying on it, and there were times when I would feel terribly sleepy because I was not understanding anything. So there are two ways: either you move on, you do not read the part that you don't understand, or you go and Google it. But what I'm trying to say is AI needs a solid base in maths, statistics. Those are the things that if you do not understand, you have to read up about them. And that if you go reading into it, you might get lost. So it's a very diverse journey. And then what I did was I was not understanding. I went up to some. I have done a lot of courses which I've left halfway around because I did not understand. But then I went into the deep learning specialization course by Andrew Ng on Coursera. That was amazing. And then you understand what you're getting into. But deep learning is a field of machine learning, so where neural networks come into the picture, so which learn on their own. So you just give the data, you don't have to do much, you don't have to decide what data to feed it to neural networks, and they learn the pattern on their own. So that is deep learning, which is a subset of machine learning. So from there onwards, I understood what I was doing. And then I've taken part in certain competitions. I've done the Microsoft AI professional course, which it again takes you through all the aspects of AI, the ethics of AI, math, statistics, computer vision, NLP. And then they have a final round of a competition where you have to basically show on a data set whether you're being able to achieve, say, minimum 70% accuracy. So that was my first project that I did, pneumonia detection. And then, so now, like I was saying, there are multiple resources available. You have Udemy, you have Udacity. So I did my first course in computer vision from Udacity. It's a very niche subject, computer vision. And again, like I'm mentioning, not very many resources were available, and you would not know what you would need. It's like a tool. AI is a set of tools that you have on a table, and you might need something to cook something, but you do not know which ones you need. So accordingly you have to pick it up, and everything is related to one another. So somewhere you have to start. So Udacity gave me that base for computer vision, at least, because like I'm mentioning, it's niche. It's not something that you can find a lot of material on unless you're doing a computer science masters or a PhD. So that was one place that I really admire, Udacity. It's founded by Sebastian Thrun, and he's
Okay.
one of the people who was there in Google. So that is also something important that I learned, and I've also done some autonomous vehicle courses from there. And then we have our very own NPTEL, which is, I'm going to share these resources in the chat
Yeah.
later.
And we're gonna
The
I add it in the description. We're gonna put all those links. I was going to
Yes.
ask you about the computer vision course that you took in Audacity. That was enough to make you work in computer vision projects, or you add a few other things? If you can talk about the other things that you use beside the course of computer vision.
Yeah, so the course in computer vision gives you an idea of what all exists, the tools that exist for the kinds of computer vision problems, use cases that are there, like semantic segmentation. So I'm talking about the same example, self-driving cars. If you're walking on a road, you don't want to collide with a passenger or a person who's standing on the road, anything, a tree, a lamppost. So
Mhm.
your camera, your vision system has to be sophisticated to understand what is
Many
what, not to.
images, yeah.
Yes, so you need to train it with multiple images. So that is one part that you have. And then you have face detection, face recognition, pattern recognition. So I can go on and on about it. So it's a huge subject. And as and when you come across, so the base of learning AI, machine learning, computer vision, you name it, is picking up a problem statement. You pick up a problem statement, then you know which tools to pick up. Whether you need computer vision, whether you need NLP. If you need computer vision, which tools do you need? Do you need face recognition, object detection? So all those things come into the picture. So accordingly you have to pick out your path. So you start somewhere and bifurcates in multiple directions.
Yeah, so you continue to do researching. when you're going through the working on these projects. You research
Yes.
for other things and you continue working with those. Oh, that's
Yes.
great. Another question for you will be like, when you okay, you work with the software development and then work with the computer vision. Uh, Anything that you had in your background from that knowledge of software development that you think that it was helpful to getting to the path, or a person that don't have software development can get into AI? Like,
No, that's completely not true because yes, I did. I had coding background, so I was coding in Python again in
okay, Python.
implementing. Yes. So previously I was working in Angular JS. I was working in C Sharp. So that is similar. So it's all coding patterns are similar. You have object oriented programming, but uh, what you're asking me is anybody from any background can come and learn it? Yes, because
Yeah.
I've seen very successful people who have come from different backgrounds which are not related to status. They've come from mechanical engineering backgrounds. They might not have that coding experience, and they're doing pretty well. They're doing very well actually. So yeah, it's possible. You just have to have the patience to learn something. Python is a very simple language, not very difficult. We had R and Python both, and I chose Python because I read of the advantages of Python. And you have a lot of tools, but the point is to not be tool agnostic, to not focus too much on tools. That was my path that I took, because if you know the basis, you can work on the tools.
So you think
So
Python is being used more than R, or like
yes,
both? Yeah,
yes,
both.
no, Python
So
has definitely more adaptability than R.
so you would recommend to people that is getting into AI to go to with Python to when.
No, I would not recommend anything as such, but it again depends on the kind of problems that you're looking at. But like I mentioned, Python is more easy to adapt. It is less complicated to understand. R has more functions available for certain kind of use cases that you can use. But yes, Python is more easily accepted right now, even in most organizations. So if you're looking for a job as a data scientist, ML practitioner, Python is something most people look forward to. So it's either Python slash R slash a lot of other things, but Python is mostly accepted everywhere.
Okay. So when you not right now you're on computer vision, or you're working on other projects besides computer vision?
No,
Working
I
on
work
other
in the
things?
capacity of an architect, a machine learning
Okay.
architect. So anything, so we build products, AI products or AI features of products. So it might be computer vision or anything else, but I love computer vision. So that is my
Can
specialty.
you talk? Can you talk more about the things that you talk now, like more, even more information, or like what it imply to work in the things that you're doing now?
So the kind of things that I'm doing right now involves multiple use cases. That again depends upon the kind of organization that you're working on. If you're in the retail sector, you'll have more to do with how people shop, recommendation systems, detecting whether. So I had this particular use case. It's a very simple use case where you have to detect if certain shelves in a store are empty or not, so that the person doesn't have to go manually and monitor whether there are empty racks. They have to fill it up. So those are simple use cases. That's retail specific. You have banking applications. You have computer vision applications where you're required to digitize forms. So people might have multiple forms that they need to digitize. That's called OCR. So optical character recognition. So you see a character, it a handwritten character, and everybody's signature handwriting differs. So a computer will be able to understand that. So if I write something and you write something, our handwritings might be completely different, and they will still understand that. So these aspects are all there, depends upon the use case, but there are also scenarios when the privacy and the ethics involved have to be taken into account. Like for example, I was giving you this example of a shop store where a person's activities are monitored. We have the CCTV footage. We are taking in what products the person is buying, and accordingly we are sending recommendations to that person. So ethics is involved here. Why? Privacy is involved here. Why? Because my choices might be something that do not want to make it public. So there was this case. What happened was a teenage girl. She was pregnant, and her, depending upon her buying patterns, her father received a product, a recommendation that was sent to his house or his mobile. I do not remember. So which he got to know even before his daughter had, told him about the incident. So that creates problem. So those are ethical issues, those are privacy issues that one cannot. So there's a boundary that has to be drawn, and until unless we reach that point, we really do not know how much it can encroach in our lives and cause issues. So that is the ethics part. So one has to take those things into account. What
The
activities
privacy.
should you
Yeah.
monitor? Yes, ethics of AI. How much does it encroach in our privacy? What should we monitor? What should we not monitor? What is acceptable? How much do I want to be tracked? So all that comes into the picture, which has to be taken into account.
So that will be talking the part of ethics and laws, like where AI beside like all things that good things that are gonna come to our life, because we see AI as the movies put it, like we're gonna be scared. We talk about AI like the Avengers and Age of Ultron, so that's like people will be scared of AI. Well, AI have other things that will make life better, like in the healthcare sector and other areas like can help like even in the climate change like and global warming. Uh, I want to ask you about the ethics, but more deep. If you can give us like a information about that, in what things you think can be implemented to work on that better, like on ethics and what laws you think we need to be implemented, like from your own perspective.
So there are privacy laws, especially in the US, which since I've been working in the US in some of my previous organizations were US organizations. So you have laws which you cannot, which cannot be exposed. So, for example, the identity of a person. If you're using my data to train your machine learning models, my identity should not be exposed. Simple example is the healthcare data. So, say you're trying to build a model which can predict cancer, like you said, skin cancer, any type of disease. So you need a lot of data from. It might not be sufficient from one hospital or a diagnostic center might not be able to give all that data, but you might not want anybody else to know, okay, I have this disease. So that comes into the privacy, the ethics. So according to you, you have to handle the data. So that is one part again called privacy preserving deep learning. So there are ways of handling those things, because that data can also be attacked, used to manipulate, affect your life. So if you build a model, even if the output is something that you're getting to see, there are ways of reverse engineering to get your name and your data out, your information, personal information out from that data which which you've used to build that model. So those things are very important aspects. That is the reason there is still a gap in why the adaptability of AI. So because people might not be comfortable having this kind of data, having being linked to it. So the identity of a person has to be preserved. So that is one very important thing, and there is work going on in that sector because it is very important, especially for home automation, surveillance, and healthcare sector. So these are very important things. You cannot have your Alexa take all your data and feed it to train another model. So it'll get to know your personal preferences when you're at home, when you're not, when a so that can be used by miscreants to find out when you're setting an alarm every day, when you're not at home every day, so they can come and do what they do. So those are the things that one has to take into account. So that is the reason
Mhm.
this privacy preservation has come into the picture, where you people realize the importance of using the data, but in such a way that it does not harm our lives. And then you have this issue of data being biased. So I think most of us have come across is, for a simple example, so there might be gender bias, there might be race bias. So for example, if you're trying to detect a face of a man or a woman, and your system has to classify, is this a male face or a female face? So if you do not have enough female faces to train the model, so that becomes a gender issue, because it might not be able to say distinguish a female face from a male face. It might say classify more female faces as male faces, because you've not trained it with the accurate amount of data. So there needs to be equal amount of male and female faces for your system to give a desirable output. And the same goes for race. There needs to be equal distribution of African American, Southeast Asian, Asian images, so that your system can detect accordingly. Otherwise, it will fail. So it will not be able to detect a African face or a Asian face, and it will not be able to understand because you've not trained it with that kind of data. So all that comes into the picture come in computer vision, in NLP, everywhere. So those things are something which we have to take into account. We are developing that sophistication, as in when we are seeing that these issues are cropping up. So, and
Yeah.
like I mentioned, getting hold of that data is a challenge. So that always stays and something we
And
have
you
to
and
work
you
around.
you're taking an important point now because when you're giving that data and for like can be speech or all the other parts that people can pass like we saw like anger and other things. So when you teach that to AI, we see like things like I don't know, it was I don't know what company it was, but was like about the AI become like they say like a racist, like it start talking like things like because that was information that was he was learning from that. So
Yes,
you have to be careful on the type of information you're giving to AI in the process.
correct.
So you have
Yes,
to
correct.
learn on that.
Yes, so it's a very sensitive kind of. It depends upon the application, but when you're making it public facing, it becomes a sensitive issue if such things happen. And then if you're a big organization, you get into trouble. So for that, you have to be very careful and you have to analyze all these issues. But like I said, we are in a place where we have understood that these are the issues and people are working towards it to improve it. Privacy, ethics, bias. So yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about what the first project that you built, like because you built like a kind of portfolio, right? When you was working in developing, like make the transition, what was the first project that you can like give an advice to people that is viewing us now that they can start? Like this is the perfect project you can start to start learning about AI.
Uh, See, when I started my journey 5 years back, so I was looking for use cases which would be appealing to my organization. I was working in a bank back then. So at that time, chatbots, like I've mentioned, were coming up. So chatbots are when you go to a website, so you do not always have a customer service person who can ask you or guide you. You might get lost in the navigation of the site as well. So we have these windows popping up on the site. Now we are totally aware of them. It's there in all sites. You have there and somebody says, "Hi, how can I help you?" So at that time that it was not there, and it was especially very much relevant for banking sites. So I started working on a chatbot for automating some HR operations. So you have a lot of questions. This is very specific to organizations. You might need a lot of clarity about a certain organizational process, like simple, like submitting your reimbursements. You want to claim something you've spent on, and the organization is going to reimburse it, but you do not know how to do it, and the people responsible are difficult to reach to. So if you have a chatbot, you can just type in a query and it replies. It is very common right now, but that is what I had started with. But to answer your question in its more simple way, is that for all these fields like NLP and computer vision, we have very simple projects that most people start with. Spam detection is one. Emotion guessing emotions, emotion detection is one, is positive or negative emotions from Twitter, Facebook comments, movie ratings, IMDb movie ratings, and then detecting faces. And that is a very computer vision easy, like a very normal computer vision problem. So these are the things that people start with. So it's common. Stock price prediction, any site you go, any project site you go, you can find these projects which have been implemented. You can go through them, and that's where you start.
Yeah, so you mentioned a few, but can you tell like two at least, like go with these two when if you
You
want to
can
start on AI from your perspective?
I think emotion detection,
Motion.
detecting emotions from Twitter posts, whether they are positive or negative emotions, or from IMDb ratings. Why I'm saying this is this data set is easily available. You need a data set, right? You need a data which is readily available. You cannot go and make a data on your own. So that these data sets are easily available. So you can
Okay.
take these house price prediction, very common regression use case. So you have all these house data, number of rooms, number of bathrooms, area, etc. You have these data sets, and you can go in and try to predict a house price depending upon these features. And for computer vision, face detection, object detection, classification, cat, not cat. So these are very simple
That's good.
ones.
Okay, so now tell me a challenge that was like one of the biggest challenge that you learned from it, but what's the biggest challenge going through this transition of learning AI, and now that you're working on it?
Yeah. So for me, the biggest challenge at that time was, so like I've mentioned a few use cases right now. These are very simple use cases. But if you go to a little above these more little more complex use cases, what algorithms do you use? Why do you use these? What is better than the other one? So you have many number of algorithms available for solving one problem. One might give you a better accuracy, one might give you a better precision. So all these things depend, so you learn this process slowly, and new algorithms are being brought out every day by Facebook, by Google. But that is where you have to understand. So that was the most that was the time that I was most difficult for me to understand, because if you go through these tutorials, they might use one algorithm, but you might question why not that. So only with hands-on, with implementing these, will you understand that why one is used better than the other. There are again very many resources available, which I will share, which compares these algorithms and say this is where it performs better than the other. So
Yeah, good. So
that,
so we can share later, like the steps on those resources that you're talking about
yes,
now.
yes,
Okay, great,
absolutely.
great. So in the future, what project you would like to see yourself like working on? What type of project you would like to be in AI, but like doing something there, like you would like to, that will be your not ultimate, because we have so many projects in mind that we would like to do, but like that's your dream to be working on.
Yeah, I have discussed this with a few of my friends, so they know. I am obsessed right now with the idea of a flying car, autonomous flying car, and more so powered with solar powered or electric powered. But I had this idea again 4 years back. At that time, it was not so common. People were still developing it, but now we have at least almost every country bringing out a flying car. So that was like my dream project. It still is. Again, these are all I'm seeing from the aspect of a computer vision professional. So I have also worked on side projects for creating autonomous drones, which would be able to see on their own just within the apartment. So that is my interest field. So my dream project is that.
So a drone that be inside the house, like have the recognition of every part of the house and with cams and all that, like a helper,
Yes.
right?
Yes, so it depends upon the use case. You might use it. So drones are used right now for photography, aerial
Yeah,
photography. So it's very common right now in weddings and other events. Then you might have drones, which simple thing. It might just pick a cup from one room and keep it in the other one, or again photograph anything. So you have that depends upon the weight and the size of the motor that you're using. So I had a lot of ideas. So I think IBM some years back came up with a drone which would deliver coffee to all the employees working in their office, so they don't have to get up and get the coffee. So all those kinds of things can be done. So the flying car idea would build up on that drone. So drones have that they do not. So my kind of flying car would basically be able to take off from one place without needing a runway. So those are the things that I was studying. So I started with a drone and moved on. So for me, computer vision is very important for all these autonomous vehicles of all kinds.
no, that's great. It's a good. In movies we saw flying cars since like Back to the Future, and and
Yeah.
we still like we're still working on it. So I hope like you can work on that and that dream, and it can become true. Because we have, I think it's Germany, right? Many countries are working on it, like flying
Yes.
cars, but like become like with like the perfect solution on flying cars is done is still not yet, right? Or you can correct me.
No, it's there, but my problem, the what I wanted to tackle is, so I live in Bangalore, which is a it has a huge traffic problem, and if you get stuck, you do not know when you reach home. So for me, that was one thing, and the other was the flying cars that I have come across cost in crores. So not everybody can afford them. So for my idea was to build something which is affordable, some small pod which can travel in air, make you reach your destination faster, but
Yeah,
also be
like a
affordable.
pod, right? Like a
Yes,
pod. Yeah.
like a pod, yes, but it would be affordable. So like I said, 3 4 years back, the cars that were being they were basically being worked on by research institutes or big large companies which had a lot of resources, but they would cost a bomb. So they would be in crores. So that is not something everybody can afford, even if you launch it. So that if you're not able to adopt it, it will not solve your ultimate issue. My reason for building a flying car was tackling the traffic issue. So yeah.
Okay. So going back to the career and how you made all this transition to getting to AI, what other advices you can give to someone that is starting there? Like we talk about the projects, we talk about the courses, but what other things you think are left that you want to help for, like to work in that field of AI, they can find.
uh, so one thing that it's like more like an advice is that if it appeals to you, I think right now data science is trending. People go in it because of the high salaries.
Demand.
But for me, the motivation was that I can affect lives with AI. That was the biggest motivation, which I was not finding in my job at that time. We can deliver relief packages, blood to disaster zones with drones automated with AI. So these things are only capable with this kind of technology. So I think a passion is required there, and there will be stumbling blocks. Like I said, it's a diverse amount of things. You have to learn probability, statistics, everything. So you should stick to it. You need
Okay.
patience, and you need persistence. So those are the most important things.
So another thing I was going to ask you that I don't see like me working with Replica and doing these interviews. Uh, Most of the interviews are from men, and only a few women I can find like working with AI or like robotics. You see, like there's more women there like want to try in that field, or what is your point of view of the woman in this field of AI and robotics?
It is less than the number of men that there are, and we have dedicated groups like Women in Data Science, Women in Robotics. So there are groups which promote these kind of, so to women to take up these roles. But I think the acceptability is coming slowly. So for mid-career professionals like us who had transitioned somewhere around 5 or 7 years of work ex, that is not something people think about. Even men do, because it requires a lot of. If you have a day job and you want to study completely different subject, it takes a lot of time. And for women, it might not be so easy because they have, at least in India, they have a lot of work that they have to do at their home, also with their children and everything that they have to look after the jobs. So it might become a stumbling block. But I've come across a number of people in Kaggle is one more place that people should go to if they're learning. They have a lot of data science competitions. So there are people. So women, one Indian woman had recently become one of the masters over there. So there are notebook masters, there are competition masters. So it's rare, but it's celebrated accordingly. So
That's
they're given that importance. So it takes time, but like I said, persistence is key.
yeah. So the you have any uh, work on any pattern or something that you think that you're working on that you can share with us?
A project,
Yeah, any project
you
or
mean?
any pattern or anything that you say like this project is like I'm working on it now. Like if you can want to share that
Uh,
is like it's like make you happy because when you make that transition now you're saying say like okay now I'm doing something big like something in AI that is making me proud of all this work I've been doing through these years.
Okay. So once I transitioned into AI, I saw what are the applications that AI can contribute to. So I've also ventured into robotics. So I am learning about that. So that is again one interesting field, very different from what you
Right.
have in AI. So
Mhm.
you have all these different kind of algorithms which makes a agent. They call it agents here, which move around an apartment, a system, an environment as such, without having a map of the environment. So that is something I was working on the side. So because of the pandemic, there has been an increase in the number of home cleaning robots. So I was trying to build one on my own. I have a home
Okay.
cleaning robot,
Oh yeah.
but yeah, but most of the ones, they cost a lot. So they cost around 50K in Indian rupees, of course. So that's again something not everybody can adopt. So that's again I see as a challenge. So I was working on that as well. So my idea was to build something which can go through the room without having a map of the room and do the needful. So yeah, it's again
Yeah,
a very
that's
interesting field.
wow. That's nice. But can you show it or not? Can you show
No,
the no
I do
no?
not have anything ready yet. I'm working on the
Okay.
software. So there's a
Okay.
software and a hardware part. So I'm learning about the software first. So there are algorithms like SLAM, simultaneous localization and mapping. And
Okay.
then I'm working on how to implement visual SLAM and semantic SLAM. So visual SLAM is basically lets the robot see and accordingly localize itself. Localize means to know where I am. So the robot has to know where it is in the environment. And mapping is to create a map of it accordingly. So as it moves, it creates a map of the environment. So I'm working on the software aspects of it. And then later on, I have to think about the hardware as well.
That's great. Um, I'm I want to thank you because we're gonna take time to some Q and A's, but I want
Sure.
to thank you first with for this conversation we had, and we're coming to an end because it's gonna be 45 minutes of this first episode, and I'm happy to have you and all the information that you give to us and to the viewers on how they can apply AI and make the transition to that field. We have here a question from Prakhar Mishra. I'm going to show it now so
Okay.
you can answer. They say like if someone is in other IT field different from AI, having no experience, so certification in AI like AI 102, AI 900 helps someone to push in AI field.
So to answer this question, Prakhar, so what I have encountered is most organizations, like the kind we work in, they have mandates, goals for having certifications. But in none of the interviews that I've attended, anybody has asked me, how many certifications have you taken? So if you're trying to move around within the organization and they're asking you for a certification, that is a different thing. But in any of the interviews, I have not come across anyone from the CPO, the chief product officer, to the manager or the developer who might be interviewing you, who's ever asked how many certifications have you taken, which certifications have you taken. You put it in your resume, it might be good. At one point of time, I even got asked, why did you do so many certifications? So for me, it was a journey of understanding, learning. Yeah, so you for me, what I have seen in AI is you should do those courses, whether they're free or paid, if you see that there's a value, that you're going to learn something from them, not because they're going to be accepted by any organization, because trust me, they wear out in no time. The knowledge that you're getting in AI in any certification exam or anything, that's what I have seen. It's expanding. You're getting new algorithms every day. So how do you defend? How do you defend that if somebody asks you, why are you using BERT and why are you not using something else? So that is the difference. So I think you should do courses only with the intention of getting the knowledge. If your organization requires certain certifications, please ask them, or you make suggestions. Udacity has these nano degree courses. I lay a lot of value by Udacity because they have hands on, they have very great teachers, and for me, I understood certain things only while I was taking those courses. But I think they're not so much relevant. Certifications are not so much relevant. I personally took the AI professional course offered by Microsoft, which was offered some 3 years back. I spent 70,000 rupees on it, and later it became obsolete. They script it. So it didn't make any sense. So
No,
yeah.
so what were you trying to say in the way that I see it too? Because I have a few certification, I'm like with you too. But when you have a certification, it would be good to have a portfolio and to build on it because most of these companies they like certification, but they like more people that apply what they the knowledge they acquire there. So
I
when
think
you
the
build,
projects are more important there.
yeah,
You have to
tribes,
show the projects. So
hmm
certifications are okay, good. Like I said, it depends upon the
have the
organizational
knowledge.
mandate. Yes,
Hmm.
you need to show the projects. What all projects have you implemented? You have to
Implemented.
explain what did you learn from them? How did you implement them? That is the important thing. Even if
Yeah.
you're fresher, you have absolutely no work ex. You work on projects, you show them, you put them on GitHub, you portray them on LinkedIn, you
Hmm.
put those links in your resume, let people see them. You explain them in your interviews. That's what people are going to ask. What have you implemented? Why have you implemented? What is the theory behind that? So
Yeah.
that has been my experience.
Yeah, and I think that it's good to start like small, right? Run like go to small projects, like because it's overwhelmed. Somebody like, oh, start a project so big or have something so big. It's better like to do small projects in
Yeah,
inside the
that, yes, yes,
right.
definitely something which you can understand, not something which you're doing because they're saying you, asking you to do it. And again, something which I would like to add to Prakhar's question:
Mm-hmm.
certifications, not so sure, but courses, they can be helpful. So we have many, all, almost all institutes offering, even the IITs offering postgraduate programs, masters in AI, different fields of AI, data science. If you have the time and if you do not find them very expensive, take those up,
Okay.
because that is structured learning. Again, I did not have that when I started. There was no such courses available, so I had to go through the unstructured way of looking here, looking there. But that gives you a very structured method of learning, so what all is expected of you in the industry. And they will also have the projects, the ones that I mentioned. All
That's
these
good.
programs have the same kind of projects,
Yeah.
so the beginner projects. So I think those can add value. Again, what I'm stressing is the knowledge that you gain from them.
And I think
So
some of those links that like that information that you're giving, like we can give some of those links share later for him,
sure.
and
Yeah.
then he can have a more clear path to go.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have another. It's like a comment here from uh, Shabam Saha. So we can help him there. Said I've been thinking of applying for my master's in the next year. No, I think it's like this is the second question. Sorry, that's the first one. Okay. Hi, I mostly work with biomedical and IoT devices, but willing to shift to autonomous vehicles industry. It would be great if you could provide advice for me.
So, what kind of advice are you looking for? Are you seeking for how you can gain insight into autonomous vehicles? If that is what you're looking for, there are multiple courses, even on autonomous vehicles. BITS Pilani, which is one of the very reputed colleges in India, offers master's program in autonomous vehicles. And I understand. I think you mentioned that you're working in embedded systems, so that makes sense for you to move into autonomous vehicles. You can start, if you want to learn, you can go to
Yeah, there's
Udacity, like I've been mentioning.
yeah, it's the
So
other one.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been thinking of
So
applying for my master. You read that one, right?
yeah.
Next year, September session, okay? But I want to gain some skills before that. Mostly my work entails designing PCBs and coding for embedded system. Okay?
Yes.
Yep.
So see, embedded systems would make sense for the hardware part also of any autonomous vehicle. But what are you planning on doing your masters on? So that is something you have to tell me to help you further. But like I said, you come, if you're into IoT, that is also AI. So AI, IoT. So that is how the data is coming to AI. So IoT is also used for that. Internet of Things is also used for giving the data for a algorithm to build upon. And then you have robotics. So all this is linked. So this is all linked. It's going to help you, so that knowledge. So yes, you can go for it. And if you want to prepare for your masters, if you want to go through some courses, like I've mentioned, there are multiple courses. Udemy is a very affordable platform where multiple people post their create tutorials. It comes to around maybe 500 INR for lifetime of access, and they keep upgrading those also. So go through that. There are multi, if you want to prepare for your masters, that is, I'm assuming you want to do it in somewhere like autonomous vehicles only. So that will help you get a better understanding whether you should go
Yeah.
for that masters or not also.
Yeah, we have something here. He wrote planning for robotics or autonomous system program.
uh,
Yeah. I
okay.
think that's the way he's going. He's going like for that. For, like he's planning for robotics or those two. So
That you have to depend. So if you want to, if you're asking me whether you want to go for a master's in robotics or autonomous systems, see, what is your motivation? Are you interested in getting a job? So applications in robotics are not so much. Organizations working in robotics are not so many in India. I'm not saying that it's not a something that you should study. if you have interest in robotics, if you have certain use cases you want to work on, please go ahead. I know that robotics is also going to come up. At least there are plenty of startups who are working in robotics, and autonomous vehicles too. So even the big companies have autonomous vehicles. Teams who are working on those. There is Mercedes Benz and multiple other. So you have to decide which one to go for based on, first is your interest, and second, if a job is something which is you're focusing on, then how much how many jobs do you have in robotics in India or in autonomous vehicles if you're planning on staying in India. So that should be your, that's how you should think about it.
Yeah. Any other question that you want to Sayantani answer for you? There's no more questions. No. So I think that's gonna be all for this episode. So we don't have any more questions coming. And I hope like Siobhan and Backrash that Brackhart, that answer from Sayantani was enough, and you can contact her too. She was gonna provide her information and how you can email her or by social media contact her, social media. I want to say thank you again for being here and take your time to talk about AI and robotics. I would like to have you again in maybe in the future when you're working with that flying car. So I want to have you here again. We can talk more about it.
Sure.
Thank you, and wish you have a good weekend. And thank you again.
It was a pleasure, Miguel. Thank you so much.
So for the viewers, this is the first episode of Replica. We're going to have more, and we'll be like this one on Saturdays and the weekend, or maybe we're gonna plan to do it on the week, but mostly we want to be in the weekends. So the next one will be about space robotics. We're gonna talk about all the things that have been doing in the space, and like now with the commercial space flights and everything related. And I hope like if you like this one, click subscribe for the next one. And I appreciate all the viewers that attend this first episode of Replica. From my side, happy weekend to everyone.
Yes, wishing the same. Thank you,
Bye bye.
everyone.
Bye bye.